So here's a hard one. This is Watchmen, obviously. What can you say about it that nobody's ever really said about it? All I can say is that between the movie and the book, I think the movie has a more streamlined ending. I think it does. It is far more thematic, I guess, in the ending. Like, it is much harder to depict that Cthulhu cosmic fear, but at the same time, I think it's actually, if you think about it, is a more practical and less. I think Ozymandias comes off as less of a villain if you think about the Cthulhu, the method he uses, than the Dr. Manhattan method he uses in the movie. So I am kind of split on on which ending is actually kind of better. I think they both work, and at least you can understand that that they both exist in this timeline. Like, it is a written story, and it is a very good deconstruction of superheroes at that time. And there's just so much to take in within that timeline. You can work off other comics, who they are, who the characters are, and I definitely think Rorschach is one of the more interesting characters because he is empathetic. You kind of understand where he's coming from, and just his actions are obviously what's very questionable. But overall, in all the characters, he is the most I would go understandable, really. Like, everybody here has had damage, and they're trying to, and how it kind of manifests in them. And these are the kind of people who would be superheroes, would be very, very crazy people in some ways. Bigger personalities, and just like I said, like I noted, the coloring is amazing for what it was in the time. But if you do it now, I don't know what you would do. I probably should compare the newer Watchmen kind of series and see how the coloring is done there. I think it's probably more tonal, actually, so that where you'll see colors matching. And this is very bombastic. It's very solid. And also less gradients, and yeah. And I just remember seeing this at the time. It was surprising. I thought it was a total ripoff of Batman, and not coming from an understanding. But this, it deserves the acclimates it gets. Definitely, it's definitely a read. But if you're a young reader who doesn't, or somebody who doesn't have money, I think you should just pick this up used or get it used. It's never going to go out of print. And if Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons aren't being compensated well for this, then you know what? There's Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and there should be there should be constant reminder that artists should be paid for their work. Like, even the best don't get always properly compensated for what they do. Really, it's just the way of business. And that's why it's good to have lawyers and people on your side. And these guys are lucky. I'm sure they're lucky that they have people who can work for them. And that's why I recommend going to book fairs or comic fests to just buy from the artists themselves. That way they get more cut, and also donate to the Patreon. Even $5 is probably going to make more difference than buying a book usually does. Book deals can be problematic in some ways, that they are being charged, they are being paid a lot, but then at the same time, they're not always getting the best deal at the end there. So it is important for readers to look out for the people they love, really, especially the smaller ones, I think. And I think it's a good thing in this day and age that there are a lot more readers and it's far more widespread. It's not like, I think before, and you can see it with the TVscape as well, that there were a lot more smaller elite group of writers and creators, but now there are far more people who are making a living. It's probably not the best living, but it is a living, and they can still do what they do, and they're not usually suffering for what they're doing. I think, and it's a really good place for industry where we're at. I remember there was a question a while back on Reddit, back when I was trying to just get my footing and understand what the whole internet thing was. What comic imprint do you think is the best, like is the biggest? And I think, or it was up and coming, and I think Image was the one that was really being talked about, and I do think Image was doing really well at the time, and they had solid writers, and they've always had books, and the creators are getting a bigger cut. But you come up to now in 2019, it's kind of going downhill, and I think it is essentially closing down. But what you see is that webcomics and Patreons and GoFundMe's and those kind of things are being consistent. I wouldn't say they're getting bigger, they're just being consistent overall, where people can at least publish a run for themselves if they have a good enough following. And I think that's really great for the industry. It is sad that people aren't getting money, but I think it's better that there are more people who are telling their story, in a way. Especially with YouTube and such. And that's what I love. Because I know it's good to have gatekeepers at the same time. I think it's really problematic that that only a few groups of people can choose who becomes the story, who gets to tell their story in a way. And I think we are in a really good place for that, where more people are getting to tell their story. Yeah. And I think it definitely serves the readers much better for that.